Voices of Nova Scotia, an inspiring journey of healthcare heroes. Welcome to the Voices of Nova Scotia podcast. Brought to you by the Association of Nigerians in Nova Scotia, this series shines a spotlight on the incredible healthcare professionals making a difference here every day. Healthcare in Nova Scotia faces unique challenges, but our community of Nigerian healthcare professionals is stepping up to the plate, bringing their expertise, compassion, and vibrant culture to our province. Through heartfelt interviews and personal stories, Voices of Nova Scotia showcases why these dedicated individuals chose Nova Scotia, the obstacles they've overcome, and the rewards of their vital work. Whether you're a healthcare worker considering a move, or someone who values the role of these professionals in our community, this podcast is for you. Join us and be inspired by the voices that are shaping the future of healthcare in Nova Scotia. Subscribe now and become part of our journey.
Hello, welcome to today's podcast episode of the Voices of Nova Scotia, where we showcase the journeys and experiences of our healthcare professionals. I want to start by asking you, could you please introduce yourself?
My name is Adedamola Adeola Fasehun. I am a psychiatrist. I work in Amherst, Nova Scotia. I initially went to medical school in Lagos. I went to University of Lagos, and then I went for my postgraduate qualifications in the UK. So I did my master's in public health and in addictive behaviours in Liverpool, and I did my psychiatry training in Wales, in the UK. And I lived in Wales for about 13 years before moving over to Nova Scotia.
We know how demanding this career could be, so can you please tell us what inspired you to pursue a career in healthcare?
I'm one of those children who was raised by a very intelligent woman in the form of my grandmother. From when I was about 7, 8, I did not know I had options other than medicine, because all she kept on saying was, "Oh, my doctor me, Shumabam Shikini." So that by the time I was old enough to make career decisions, I was being driven by making her happy. You see, my grandmother, Juliana Fasehun, who is late now, was a widow when I was born, or just after I was born. And I think as a family, she was our grand matriarch. As a family, we tended to do things to make her happy. So that, in my case, I was the first grandchild. So I was like a handbag. So when someone has been saying, "You're going to be this," you don't think about the fact that you may not be able to do it. You just assume you are going to do it. And that's interesting, because then there's no doubt. It's more like, this is the outcome we're pursuing, so that's what we're going to do. And when I reflect on it now, for people who went to school in Nigeria, you'd know about JAMB and SSE. I remember that when I was probably an average student, but in the 6 months to JAMB and SSE, everything changed because I had to get into medical school. And nobody had to tell me to start reading at night. Nobody had to tell me to use candles and lanterns to study. People who are from God's own country understand what candles and lanterns are, because NEPA was on holiday half the time. So when you ask me why I went into healthcare, it was to make my grandmother happy.
What motivated you to move to Nova Scotia?
Interestingly, one of my closest friends, Bankole, is in Vancouver, and probably about 12 years ago, he trained in Scotland. We've been friends since secondary school. He trained in Scotland and he said he was moving to Canada, but I wasn't interested at all. I wasn't, because I was taking my time. I didn't do anything to pursue it. But over the years, I was gradually doing some of the Canadian exams without any real commitment. as part of a study group, I met a lady called Adedamola, who's a psychiatrist, and she just happened to have come to Nova Scotia. And as part of our study group, she spoke to Hugh Maguire, who is the head of psychiatry in the Northern Zone in Nova Scotia Health. And she told Dr. Maguire to interview me. Dr. Maguire very kindly did, and he offered me a job. And for a period of time, I did not show up for the job because I had other commitments in the UK. But Dr. Maguire had kept that role for me, despite the fact that I hadn't shown up, because he is just a man of his word. And I thought it was important to honor the word I'd given him to say I was coming to do the job. So I'm in Nova Scotia because of Dr. Adeola and because of Dr. Maguire. And yes, I've been here for about 16 months now. Yes, because of those two individuals.
So what challenges did you experience when you moved to Nova Scotia, and what has been your challenge so far within the practice in the province of Nova Scotia as a healthcare professional?
Well, I mean, I don't think this had to do with the healthcare system. I think it had to do with the weather. It's very cold here. But I've been very fortunate. I was very fortunate. I had friends who were here already, and I was able to stay with them while I found my feet. Not everyone is fortunate that way. And I think it would be good, for example, to have a checklist of things that need to be done before you arrive in Nova Scotia and the things that would happen when you get to Nova Scotia. So, for example, when I came, there were certain things that needed to be registered with the College of Physicians and Surgeons in Nova Scotia that I wasn't necessarily aware of before I came. So I think it would be good if we had like a checklist of things to anticipate, because people are coming from various parts of the world, and being clear on what they would have to deal with would be helpful. It also reduces anxiety and uncertainty around when you initially arrive. And then, yes, I think that was a very big thing. But like I said, I was very fortunate. I had my friends from the Nigerian community, and I had Dr. Maguire to help out.
Can you tell us what your experience has been so far working in the healthcare system in Nova Scotia? What has been the highlights, and what has been the most outstanding experiences in your journey so far?
So I think I've been fortunate to have worked in 3 healthcare systems. I worked in Nigeria, I worked in England, and I'm working in Nova Scotia now. So I have a few things to compare my experience here with. I've come here as a consultant, so my experience in the UK was as a trainee doctor, so I can't really speak to what trainees go through in Nova Scotia. As a consultant here, I have felt very, very supported. And I think that's more a function of leadership in the department, as well as the Canadian system, really. So you have people who are very collaborative here. The focus is on patient care without too much focus on resources. Let me say what I mean. Resources are important because they're not limitless. However, as much as is possible, the patient is what determines what happens. So we give as much as possible to help our patients get better. That said, however, I'm a psychiatrist in a place called Amherst. Amherst is a very deprived area. There are very limited opportunities for work. The people I serve are very vulnerable people. They're people with addictive difficulties, they're people with mental health difficulties who, as much as they would like to live a higher quality of life, struggle with that. And I think as much as the services try to help them, there's a lot more that can be done. So these are people with mental health problems who are competing with people who don't have mental health problems in the workplace. An employer would oftentimes pick somebody who doesn't have mental health challenges because they're sure of consistency in their workplace, something that some of my patients will not be able to offer. So I think that while healthcare services are great, I think the support system around social services for my patients are limited.
Can you tell us what, in your opinion, you feel or think that the government of Nova Scotia can do to attract more talents and retain more professionals within the industry? Are there any ideas from your experiences that you can share that can help the government retain most of the talents or attract talents who are trying to get into the system of healthcare?
I think the government of Nova Scotia is doing a great job already. I think because oftentimes when it comes to work, for most people, what keeps you in the job, in the workplace, is actually not necessarily what you earn. It's actually the people that you work with. And I think we've been very fortunate in Nova Scotia because in Amherst, the only place I've worked in Nova Scotia, people have been very receptive. You spend 8 to 12 hours a day, most weeks of the year with your colleagues. So if people are as fortunate as I have, people will come and they'll stay. Nova Scotia has a lot of incentives for doctors, financial incentives, settlement incentives, and I think that's really helpful. I think giving people time to do their exams and settle is very helpful. Now, one of the things I know that some doctors struggle with is opportunities for their spouses. So if a doctor is here and their spouse is unsettled, they would oftentimes move to provinces where their spouses can thrive. And a lot of doctors are married to doctors, but not everybody is. So I think it's about seeing what can be done to help people in that way. And I'm not saying that their spouses, if they're not qualified to get jobs that other people are qualified to, but it would be nice if that is part of the consideration. Allowing spouses to be aware of opportunities available for them.
How has working and living in Nova Scotia changed your perspective and your expectations about the healthcare system in general?
Well, fortunately, as a psychiatrist, I'm in a place where there's a lot of need. And I think that is a driving force because, like I said, the people that we serve are very vulnerable people. Psychiatrists are in a position where we advocate for our patients. So knowing that we're advocating for our patients encourages me every day, to know that I'm going to work, I'm going to help somebody who can't help themselves otherwise. Sometimes I'm not sure I'm the best person, but sometimes I'm the only person who can. So that maybe if we had more social service input, we would have other people who are helping us with advocacy for our patients. So that's something that keeps me going all the time. Where I live is very quiet, it's very calm. It allows, you're able to reflect. You're not rushed all the time. I think I haven't gone to too many other provinces, but where I am is very calm. You can get to wherever you want to get to in 10 minutes. So that makes life easier, that makes life easier. I think it also allows you to focus because it's not just about getting patients through the door, it's also about getting a patient into the room, staying with that patient, allowing the patient to go, you having time to reflect and make sure that you're doing the best for your patient before you help the next person. So being in Amherst has been great for me, for work.
So how has the Nigerian community supported you in your career journey, and in what ways have you received any form of support?
So I guess that's an interesting question because there's the Organized Nigerian Society, which is the organization that you represent, and then there's the Society of Nigerians that in your informal group. I was very fortunate I came to Truro, Nova Scotia, where we have a Redeemed Church, a Nigerian church, where a lot of Nigerians congregate, as well as other nationalities, but a large proportion of them are Nigerians. And that allowed me to feel at home, so I could access things that were familiar to me. I could access people who had been in the environment for longer than I had been, who educated me in such a way that I did not make avoidable mistakes. So I'm very grateful I had that, because if I had landed in Amherst, Nova Scotia, I would have probably been very depressed, because I'd have been alone, I'd have been isolated. And I'd have come, because I came in November, the weather was difficult, so I'd have been very socially isolated. I wouldn't have had anyone I could directly communicate with or spend time with, because even my work colleagues, it would have taken me time to have informal relationships with them. So I'm glad I came to Truro, where we had a collection of Nigerians. So I'm very fortunate I'm in Nova Scotia. I think there's a lot more that the Nigerian Association can do, because there are other people who have landed in Amherst who didn't have the opportunity I had in Truro. And while we may not have mechanisms that would notify the Nigerian society that they're new doctors, it's important that the doctors who arrive are able to go online, type in Nigeria, and the website is there with a lot of resources that can help them. So, that's me.
Thank you very much for sharing your story, your journey, and experiences with us today. We really enjoyed hearing from you, and we enjoyed really taking us through all the experiences that you've shared. Thank you so much for the ideas that you have given us on how to grow and retain talents. And to you who's watching on the show, thank you so much for your time. We hope that this show has inspired you today, and we look forward to having you on our next episode. Thank you so much, and have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.
Wow, what a journey. Thank you for joining us for the Voices of Nova Scotia Healthcare Heroes. We're so grateful to have you with us, sharing the incredible stories of those making a difference in our communities. From inspiring healthcare professionals to the everyday heroes, your support means the world to us. We hope these stories brought a smile to your face and a little more hope to your day. Remember, this is just the beginning. We've got so many more amazing stories to share, and we can't wait for you to hear them. So stay tuned and stay connected. Together, we'll continue to celebrate the people who make Nova Scotia such a wonderful place. Until next time, take care and keep spreading the love. See you soon.